All right, welcome everybody. If you have started watching our stream, we will begin momentarily. We're just going to get some audio checked in and wait for some more participants to join us. And if you are joining us today on the Zoom, we ask if you please stay muted so that we can eliminate any background noise so we can hear our presenters. All right, I believe we're going to get started with a quick introduction on what is going on here today. Welcome to the Connecticut Science Center's mini STEM Career Showcase. My name is Kayla and I will be your host for this event today. Thank you all so much for joining us here today. Now, the mission of the STEM Career Showcase is to highlight careers where workers use their knowledge of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics to understand how the world works and solve problems. Someone you know may have these types of jobs, and there are careers that even you can have in the future. Today, we are highlighting just some of the STEM careers opportunities here in Connecticut. Now, all participants here on the Zoom, we ask if you stay muted so we can eliminate any background noise and hear our presenters. But we still want to hear from you as well as our watchers on the YouTube channel. If you would like to ask questions, please feel free to type it into the chat. We will collect all these questions and then we're going to do a little Q&A at the very end. So please feel free to type it in both on the Zoom link or on the YouTube. Our Science Center team will be monitoring both those places for our question and answers for this afternoon. So today we have 4 participants that are joining us. We have starting off with, I'm going to introduce all of them first, and then we will begin with our presenters. So first, we're going to have Hassan Ahmed, a cloud adoption leader at the Hartford. Then we will have Dr. Karen Walters, Senior Principal Scientist from Drug Safety Research and Development in Pfizer. Todd Jensen is coming from Research Associate and Laboratory Manager at the Connecticut Children's Medical Center. And Mahesh Natarajan, Vice President and Senior Client Principal of the Cognizant. That is a hard word to say. Cognizant, there we go. So each presenter is going to share a little bit about themselves, their careers, and how they got where they are today. We will also have a nice presentation from a few of those. We will be sharing the link to their bios as well for the panelists so that you can feel free and learn a little bit more about them. All right, so I believe we're going to get started now with our first speaker, Hassan Ahmed, the Cloud Adoption Leader at the Hartford. If you would like to introduce yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Kala.
You're welcome.
I hope you can hear me okay. Okay, great.
Yes,
So my name is Hassan, and I work for the Hartford Insurance. My title is Cloud Adoption Leader. Very interesting kind of title, right? Adopting cloud. So we'll talk about that a little bit in my talk. So maybe that will excite some of the kids here. So I live in Farmington with my wife, and I got 2 kids. My son is in 4th grade. And I am a technologist at heart. I'm very fascinated by the power of technology and how it can help businesses to differentiate themselves from their competition. I also have a very strong STEM background. I have a master's in computer science and bachelor's in electrical engineering. Um, I have experience working in areas such as technology architecture, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, data science, and those kind of like interesting sounding areas within technology. So I would like to talk about today a little bit about coding, some of the interesting cloud technologies that you hear about, artificial intelligence, those kind of things at a very high level, and also about Lego blocks. So I think that would be probably exciting for some of you. So how does Lego blocks fit into this? Yeah. Can we go to the next slide, please? Or okay, great. So I just wanted to quickly start my talk today with coding. And I think coding is the real T in STEM. And coding is just such a great skill to have in today's world, right? Um, and it really having a good understanding of your general computing and software development is a really key skill for your future, regardless of what profession exactly you're going to go into. If you're going to become a technologist, obviously you will need to, to understand coding very well. But if you're going to become something else, like an engineer, maybe even a doctor, right, or an accountant, you still need in this today's world and in future world, you're going to need like really strong coding skills and understanding to be able to really be successful in your career. So just we'll probably have audiences, your kids from different age groups, right? But I would strongly encourage you guys to really start developing your coding skills as early as you can, as early as you can do, and don't think coding as just it is um, computer science or technology kind of thing. Coding is really a universal tool that you're going to use in any profession that you will join. So I really wanted to start, with this emphasis on coding. And once you have developed like good developer mindset and you have acquired some of those coding skills, you could really take it from from anywhere. You could go anywhere. Um, that essentially, this skill underpins everything else. You could become, an artificial intelligence engineer. You could become a great physicist, right? A great, even a great mathematician, right? Once you have a really good handle on coding skills. And another important thing is coding kind of helps you in understanding the problem that you're trying to solve. Coding is essentially a way for you to tell computer how to solve a certain problem. And in order to do that, you have to break down that problem into smaller pieces, and you have to feed to computer. And by doing so, you yourself get a better understanding and deeper understanding of the problem. So that's an added benefit for coding.
Excuse me, Hassan, we have a quick question. You're emphasizing a lot about learning coding. Do you know a great way for or a way to introduce kids to coding or where they can get started in it?
Absolutely. So there are tools available out there, and one of the tools that my son likes to use is called Khan Academy, and they have a free course available about coding, and I think it targets at different levels. So I think Khan Academy is a great resource, in my opinion, if you wanna start getting yourself introduced to different coding.
Thank you.
So and I'm sure there are other available out there too. Some are paid, some are free. Um, but for me, and my son, we find Khan Academy to be a great start. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Cool. You're welcome. So I think I just wanted to like lay this out in front of you guys, you kids out there, that coding is this really great skill to have. And I would really try to learn it, right? Don't think of coding as something that is technical or only computer guys do it or only IT people do it. No, it's just like everyone has to understand um, some level of how coding works in different languages. So I would highly encourage that. Um, that's on that. So can we please quickly go to the next slide? Okay, thank you. So we don't have too much time, but I just wanted to show you guys how cool technology really is, and like what kind of things you can do and how simple it is, right? A lot of time we think that technology is very complex, and we try to pretend these complicated applications and programming and whatnot. But I just want to show you quickly. So last year, me and my son, we wanted to participate in a school, Farmington School Science Day, and we wanted to come up with some really cool product that we could showcase over there. And we discussed about it, what it is, and I think we thought maybe we can use something like Alexa. Alexa is very common device, household device these days, and it's cool because you can talk to it and it can talk back to you. Um, However, my son thought that we could probably add something to Alexa. And what Alexa does is, in technical terms, it's called NLP, natural language processing. It's a little technical term, but what it is that it could talk to you and understand you in your natural language um, way. Like, you don't have to like specially program it. You can just talk to it and it'll understand. So we decided to add a camera to this Alexa system. So not only it can talk to you, but it can also see like things, right? And and we wanted, not only we wanted to put together this application, but we wanted to show kids that how it kind of works. And kids, like he's in primary school, so that's like younger kids, probably some of you are older out there right now today. But the analogy we gave, and it's very accurate analogy, is if you look at the picture on the right hand side, you see a whole bunch of different Lego blocks, right? And you see a tow truck down there. So what my son, like, and most of you I'm sure have played with Lego blocks, but what my son is like, he took those Lego blocks and he joined them together, and he created this fairly complex object, this tow truck down there. And you can only see in the picture here, but it's pretty complex. It has engine, and it has piston and all those moves up and down and all that. So 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 similar concept apply for like latest technologies in cloud computing and stuff like that too. So you could take smaller pieces which are provided to you by different cloud providers, and you can join them together and create like a very interesting application or prototype like yourself. So the one that you look underneath those, the left side of the picture, you see like this application in which you have Alexa, you have a camera, and Alexa can talk to you, and camera can look at you and look at things, and you see some of the other blocks in you know that are joined together to create this application. So I just wanted to like point it out that don't be afraid. It's very simple. It's very similar to the concept that you have guys been already doing all this time using Lego blocks, joining them together. Once you have some hands-on experience with the coding, go play out there and see how cool this really is and how easy it is for you to start building those applications. We probably don't have enough lot of time. I would love to go more deeper into this whole thing, but I just wanted to show you. We have a little YouTube link over here, which we'll play, and you'll see how this application works. But essentially, the message I wanted to give in this slide is it's cool, it's easy. You guys can go and start playing and testing around and experimenting, and you'll love it. And that's it. So I mean, if we can play a little YouTube video that will give a quick demo of what this application looks like that we put together.
So we'll see if we can get that YouTube video up. But
do you know that cows will stand?
Oh, we can hear it, but we can't see it, Caitlin.
Let's see.
Yeah, I mean,
Lots of different screens to work with here today.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, Hassan, for teaching us a little bit about that. It is kind of an awesome idea linking coding to Legos, because I know personally a lot of kids love Legos, and it really is like when you have the booklet of following the directions and putting one block and then the other block. I have seen that kind of coding where you just drag and drop the blocks in. That's a great analogy there.
Okay, awesome. That's fine if we're not able to play it. Maybe we could send the link out and kids can check it out themselves. But I think that's what it is. Like you join those simple blocks together and you create a nice application that you can try it out yourself. Again, emphasis is coding. Guys, go out there, happy coding, and hopefully this is something that you will enjoy and you would like to do in your career in future.
All right, awesome. Thank you. There is a link to the YouTube video in the chat if you would like to. We might be able to get to that also at the end, but we would like to introduce our next speaker, who is Dr. Karen Walters, Senior Principal Scientist and Drug Safety Research and Development at Pfizer. Welcome, Karen. How are you today?
I'm well. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
You're welcome.
Correct. So if you could go ahead and start the slide presentation, please. So I am Dr. Karen Walters. I hold a position with Pfizer as a study director in the Department of Drug Safety. In short, this department focuses on the preclinical discovery and development of pharmaceuticals. I joined Pfizer in 2000 in the Michigan laboratories and was relocated to Connecticut in 2007. To give you a bit of insight into how I got where I am, here's my story. I was born and raised in Kansas City, Kansas. Please start the slideshow. I went through grammar school at relatively small private Catholic schools. I was painfully shy and tended to find my place, safe and silent, as the youngest of four. Could you please start the slideshow? I thought that I might go on after high school to join one of the Ivy League schools. I mentioned my aspirations to my high school guidance counselor, thinking I would apply as a pre-med student. She looked at me as though I had three heads. She told me in no uncertain terms that people like me didn't belong in schools like that. My counselor's words hit their intended mark. I was deeply hurt and diminished. I kept silent and thought I needed to think smaller. I accepted admission to St. Mary College in Leavenworth, Kansas, a small private all-girls college that I never dreamed to attend nor wished to attend at that time. To this day, I honestly don't recall applying to the decision process going into my application. I do recall, however, receiving a letter inviting me to attend this college and offering me a full scholarship, which I accepted. This proved to be one of the times that I leaned on my faith, and thankfully, God knew the plans He had for me. There at St. Mary College, I began to find my voice. I graduated with a Bachelor of Science, majoring in biology, chemistry, and math. I went on to earn a Master of Science in Physical Chemistry from St. Louis University and a PhD from the University of Missouri at Kansas City. Following my doctoral studies, I began my professional career with a position with a pharmaceutical company in Kenilworth, New Jersey. I've been in the industry in similar roles since. In early 2006, following an extensive leave due to illness, I was informed that my role had been eliminated. Excuse me. Following a casual conversation with a colleague, however, I was offered an invitation to join the Department of Drug Safety in Pfizer. This offer was made on the strength of my reputation as a conscientious and skilled worker, excuse me, with an outstanding willingness and ability to communicate effectively and remarkable interpersonal communication skills and the ability to bring harmony and efficiency across lines. I share this information to provide insight into my story, though more so as an inspiration to anyone who at some point may be faced with an adversity. Know, from your strength within, there will be light. This is a sentiment I have held close throughout my life. I have a perpetual quest for learning and growth. After I completed my doctoral studies, I was employed full-time as a research scientist, and I went on to earn an MBA, a Master's in Business Administration, and recently completed a Master's in the Public Health program. In addition, I'm very active within the Pfizer community and within our local community, seeking and embracing opportunities to promote Pfizer's efforts toward diversity, inclusion, and equity. I currently lead one of Pfizer's colleague resource groups entitled the Global Black Community. We strive to reach out and serve our local communities, placing special emphasis on mentoring local youth in STEM areas. Finally, I have learned to persevere and not to accept boundaries that may seem present or even insurmountable. Each aspect of my life, my faith, my racial background, my gender, my Midwestern upbringing, adds to form me as a person. Inspiration comes in many forms, colors, and voices. So does learning, and so does success. Things change for the better because someone dares to try harder or to think differently. At times, my road to success has been tortuous. At times, I know I had to work harder, longer, be stronger than someone else simply by my being a member of a minority community. It is worth the struggle. Thank you for this opportunity to share with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. That was a wonderful story. You are very fascinating history there. We are going to, I have a question coming up real quick before we move on to our next presenter. So the question is, what are good ways for students to get more involved with research in middle and high school and college? How do they get into that research path?
Right, that's a very good question. And I can tell you that actually even Pfizer hosts programs where there are summer worker internships for kids that are just finishing high school or going into college or in college. We have that. We also are really putting a lot of effort into reaching out to the local high schools and so forth. So I would ask you, please just, connect with your administrators and ask them to connect with us directly because it's very difficult for us to know who's out there and who's interested. But I myself am very interested in connecting anyone with any resources possible Stay strong, stay in school. Know one thing, Pfizer isn't just about scientists either. There are so many roles available there, all kinds of roles. So if you're perhaps not in the science, and I know we're talking about STEM right now, you'd be surprised how many roles there are. And even within the STEM disciplines, there's so many different roles that one could play. So definitely don't be afraid to reach out. Go to the Pfizer homepage. If you see something interesting, reach out to someone. Reach out to me. Thank you.
You're welcome. That is a great point to point out, because a lot of kids think STEM and science careers, you have to be wearing the lab coat in the lab, but there are so much more that you can do with this type of career. I have one more question here.
Sure.
What is the most rewarding part of all your educational experiences?
I think above all is I have been able to take an active role. Pfizer's mission and vision is to bring life-changing medicines to people. And I know I have been able to have an active contribution in that. And that makes everything worth it, honest to God. And it's not just Pfizer. I keep saying Pfizer because I belong to Pfizer. But knowing that the work I do every day changes patients' lives. It could be our lives, someone we love, someone else we know, but truly, truly changing patients' lives from the medicines that we bring forth.
Thank you so much for all that information. It was great talking to you. We will circle back at the end for more questions, but we're going to bring out our third speaker today, who is Todd Johnson, the Research Associate and Lab Manager at the Connecticut Children's Medical Center. Welcome, John. How are you today? Or not John, sorry, Todd.
Good morning. I'm well. Thank you so much for having me. I want to say good morning to everybody out there, and I'm hoping to provide and add to the great presentation that Dr. Walters just gave. Research in the scientific community is really continuing because of students who are interested in STEM and because they want to be part of advancing our communities and advancing ourselves as a species. So I hope I could provide a little bit of insight about what I do in a laboratory and the challenges, as well as provide a little bit of insight about how I got there, because that was not originally my intended path. So if we can go to the next slide. So we can go to the next slide as well. Thank you. So my actual title, it's funny how people look at titles and say, what does that mean? So I'm a research associate and laboratory manager. So what does that mean? So that means I conduct research on a daily basis independently in a lab. Being the person who has risen through the ranks in our research group, I'm responsible for making sure that the lab and the other people in the lab are working and everything's running smoothly and safely. I started originally off as the lowest person on the totem pole, if you will, in the lab, doing assistant work and washing dishes. Believe it or not, have now risen to be the senior person in the group. Our mission and goal of what we do in our research is to try to find different ways to use stem cells and biological materials to treat children who suffer from either injuries or diseases that affect the lungs and the esophagus. So I'll talk just a little bit about some of the things that we do and try to give you a little bit of an insight about what working in research is like and some of the challenges that you will face. So next slide, please. So I do want to give a brief reality check to the people at home. I laugh because when I start working in research, I could tell you that my mom most certainly thought that it was like Bill Nye the Science Guy, who I did watch as a child, and thought for sure that this is what I did. And then of course I told my friends that, later on from college what I'm doing, and they thought that some of the stuff I was doing just sounded a little hokey. And then of course with big breakthroughs like that of Dr. Jay Vacanti, who was the father of tissue engineering and was able to grow this human ear on the back of a mouse. Now everybody seems to think that we're making animals with body parts running around. And so that's not actually it. My boss will tell you when the data doesn't look so good that she might think this is what's actually going on in the laboratory, and that there might actually be some sort of a fire or disaster occurring. And then you can ask any scientist that, what we think we do is super important. What we really end up doing at the end of the day is going through lots of data, lots of struggles, and try to make sense of what it is that we have found and how we can better help serve patients. I think it's important for everybody to kind of know early on that, that not every job, looking at it at face value, is as it seems. So next slide, please. So why is research really important? Well, as Dr. Walters pointed out, we wouldn't discover new drugs or new therapies if we didn't continue to do that. We wouldn't discover vaccines or cures, which during this pandemic right now is really important. And essentially the medicines and treatments we have now could eventually stop working for patients. So it's really important that research continues on in all avenues as we go through, as we go through time, because we do need new things and more progressive therapies. So how does this improve the world around us? So we learn something new every day in the laboratory. I can tell you that not every experiment is graceful. Not every experiment that you do provides you fantastic data. But believe it or not, the negative data that you sometimes collect is just as important as the positive data. So what is it that we do with that? Well, we publish our work in journals in the hopes that everybody reads and learns from it and continues to build from it. And that's the important part, is that we continue to build on each other's ideas and we continue to work towards bigger things. So next slide, please. So our goal is, as crazy as it might sound, is that we want to take cells from a patient, combine it with some sort of scaffolding or matrix that is biocompatible, meaning that your body would accept it, and basically come up with some sort of a therapy or transplantable element that would help solve some of these pediatric problems. So next slide, please. So I will say this, hard work does eventually pay off, but you have to be persistent. I have been with this research group for over 10 years, and just recently we have made something that is of substantial progress. And I know it seems like an awfully long time, but believe it or not, if you're patient, good things will happen. And so what we have been able to do with collaboration with a biotech company is take a patient's child's own stem cells, put it on this flexible tubular scaffold, and actually place that into a child who was born without a complete esophagus. So we use models or animal models to do that. And we were able to show that by doing that, we can actually regenerate tissue, and we can actually bridge that gap using this technology. And what's more exciting is, after years and years of collecting data, the company finally received FDA approval this year for using this in people. And the hope is that once we get some adult data, that we will actually be able to start testing this in children, and potentially in children in Connecticut. My message to anybody in any element of STEM is, don't give up. Persistence and patience pays off. So next slide, please. So I figured if anybody didn't catch any of the previous slide, I would try to use pictures instead to try to understand what exactly we have done. Is so as you can see in the first box, we took a scaffold that's essentially made of flexible plastic, and put a patient's cells on that, and was able to actually make a piece of esophagus that essentially grows up to be similar to normal esophageal tissue. So the esophagus is the tube that connects your mouth to your stomach. So without it, you can't swallow food and end up in your stomach. So there are children who are actually born without it. And so this is the therapy that's being targeted for them. We think it's pretty neat. And like I said, it's been a long journey, but I can tell you that the reward at the end of the day is really great. So next slide, please. So one thing I did want to point out And I think it's really important for everybody to know, regardless of what career you're talking about in STEM, that if we do not continue to have students who are interested in STEM, who participate in STEM education events, STEM career opportunities, shadowing opportunities, research and other critical things in science won't continue to progress. So really, if you have an interest in some of these things, it's really important that you get involved, because you could be a big contributor of something that will better people's treatment and health down the road. So you can progress through the next couple of slides. Keep going. So how did I end up in research? So this was funny. Originally, I used to be the biggest weather person in the world. As a child, I would absolutely love anything to do with thunderstorms and giant blizzards. So I was fairly certain, and so was my mother, that I was going to be a meteorologist. I did a lot of shadowing at the end of high school, and found out that that being a meteorologist is not the same thing as what you see on the 6 o'clock news. And so I said to myself, well, maybe I want to try something different. And so I actually did pursue medical school. Unfortunately found out that regardless of how good my grades were in school, I was not a standardized test taker, and could not get a high enough score on the standardized test for admission. And so that was very discouraging. That almost made me say, well, maybe I need to do something altogether that isn't science, math, or technology. But what actually was most important is I had actually done some undergraduate research work as part of my bachelor's degree, in hopes that that would kind of fortify my application for medical school. And lo and behold, I continued to do it for over a year, and began to realize how much I liked being in the lab. And so that's when I continued my education, got a master's degree, and actually started working at Yale University before I started working at Children's. So I will point out to everybody in the audience that where you ultimately end up is important. Don't ignore the cues and the hurdles along the way. They're certainly guiding you towards the path that you were meant to be on. So thank you very much for having me today, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And again, I apologize. I apparently said your name wrong twice. It's Todd Jensen. I was pointed that out. Sorry about that.
Right, okay, that's all right. Thank you.
You're welcome. And it's great to point out that, you're not always on the path that you think when you're in high school, right? Everybody thinks when you graduate high school, you have to know exactly what you're doing to move on, but there can be changes along the way, and that is totally fine.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Again, we can follow up later with some more questions. We have one more speaker with us today, is Mahesh Natarajan, the Vice President and Senior Client Partner in Cognizant. Welcome, Mahesh. How are you doing today?
Very good, Kayla. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's what Todd and Karen are doing for all of us in research and science, and what that Hassan does in enabling technologies to support them. It's awesome. So thank you to them, first of all, sharing their life story and inspiring what they're doing in changing lives. Which exactly is the purpose of my company, which is we engineer modern businesses to improve everyday life. I think if you just underline the engineering part of it, which is the connection to STEM, right? You can connect to technology or the engineering part of it, because everything, all the things that we heard from Todd, Karen, and others, it's end of the day, it's technology, right? Whether you're doing research, where is data comes into play, whether you are helping somebody in an insurance company or in a pharmaceutical company, right? It's all about that. Let me tell you a little bit about my career. How did I end up in what I'm doing? It actually started off in a very funny way, right? Because I saw computers as a way to play games, video games. which really created more excitement that, the more I can, get used to it, I started creating games. Little did I realize, years later, it would really serve me a good career in technology and managing technology, helping our clients. Um, I think all along the way, what really kept me excited was really learning newer things because every 2 years, I'm sure, every year Apple comes up with a new iPhone, but technology is changing so much. There is never a dull moment, in the last 20 years since I got out of school doing computer science and engineering. There is just so much that you can, continue to learn. So that's the thing, right? I started off as a programmer, I became an architect, helping clients, and now I'm managing a business that helps our clients solve business problems using technology, right? And even when I go to an ATM today and a Bank of America ATM, or when you go to Walmart, when you scan the items through the counter and then when you swipe your credit card, I really feel proud because my code, right, the code that I wrote is working there behind that. We don't see it, we don't realize it, but I really take a lot of pride in, look, my code is what is enabling all these machines to work. So that's a little bit about me, and now I'm part of Cognizant's outreach team, really motivating kids, right, to choose STEM education. It doesn't matter which part of the STEM you take, because technology is everywhere. I think Hassan or somebody mentioned that, right? And it doesn't matter which industry you choose, there is technology. So if we go to the next slide, and we'll see if we can play a nice video that comes on. Let's give it a shot.
The miracle of software. It's reshaping nearly every aspect of our personal and professional lives, changing how people interact with the world everywhere, from banking to retail to manufacturing. Disruptors get it and are surging ahead. Meanwhile, your company's software might make you feel like you're stuck in the mud. But all is not lost. There's a new modern software powerhouse in town, and the big surprise, it's you. You have almost everything you need to create software that transforms experience for your customers and your employees. You have know-how, customer relationships, and success built up over decades, or even more than a century. You do need to evolve, but fortunately, you have a secret weapon. You know your customers and employees better than anyone. You know what they want and need. And that's the key to engineering modern software. You will harness the power of AI, analytics, blockchain, and more. You will create software that makes your customer and employee experience intuitive, elegant, frictionless. You will disrupt the disruptors. You will win this race. Buckle up.
Oh, I believe you're still muted, Mahesh. Just you could unmute you so we can hear you. There you go.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
Thank you.
Yeah, so think about it, right? Look at the miracle of software and technology. You saw just in that video, right? Everyday life, whatever you touch, whether it's a car or a mobile phone, the DNA sequencing, medical research, and all of these things. And, it's really exciting, right? Where software could go. And I'm sure all of you have heard these stories, right? Famously, Bill Gates knew about software changing the world. So he let IBM build the computers and he said, I will go build the software. And he has made his billions. Hopefully, all of you are ready to, build software, technology, and all of the things that we have spoken to you about. But here is just a gamut, right? So how does it really change the lives? You may ask the question. And think about these examples. Now we as Cognizant is working with companies like Pfizer specifically, which is one of the companies in discovering drugs faster, because COVID is, causing so much damage to all of us. And, how do you really use software to accelerate finding, vaccines is one example. Insurance companies, right? There are hurricanes, weather events, the Hartford where Hassan works. How could you use drones? How could you use mobile devices? How could you use satellite images to really reach customers and help them, when they are stuck due to a hurricane situation or something? Health insurance, right? How do you help medical companies, whether it's CCMC or your doctors, and find and diagnose diseases faster? Um, there is just so much technology is doing to around the world, around us, right? We don't realize, we just assume, take it for granted. But it's fascinating. What does the future of STEM really hold for us? If you go to the next slide. And here's the thing, right? I talk about STEM, it's so exciting because anything you touch is generating software and code, right? You take the car, home, phones, computers, your thermostats, refrigerators, Fitbits, microwaves, everything is giving out data now, right? I think that's the world you are living in. That's the world all of us increasingly living in. And to be honest, how much ever the machines do everything, somebody needs to tell the machine what to do. So clearly, it's going to feed your right brain as you choose the STEM career. Your right brain will be fed. And more importantly, if you say that, look, I'm more brain oriented, if you go to the next one, you can be creative too with software. You can get creative applying software to discover drugs, applying software to discover, diagnose diseases, applying software to find new patterns, right? It's really a field where you can apply both sides of the brain, irrespective of which part of the STEM you choose. And the other thing is, if you are into languages, go to the next slide, please. And think of this, right? If you like languages, whether it's French, German, Spanish, English, whatever, same thing on on the software programming side. It's the same, right? All the languages have structure, grammar, and you will, once you learn one language, it'll be so easier to learn the other ones. I just put up some of my old books from 20 years past. You will see some of those are dated, but if you move forward, you will see a lot more languages named after animals and fruits and whatnot. You go to the next slide. Right, these are, Apple, everybody knows, but Python is a very popular language. I'm sure some of you will learn it and you will like it. Jelly Bean, maybe you don't even realize Jelly Bean is probably the software that's running your mobile phone if you're using Android. Or maybe some of you are already experimenting with, the robotic kits Hassan talked about with Raspberry Pi. It's a fruit and as well as a mini computer. And Cucumber, right, which all of us eat, but Cucumber is also, a software tool. So there is just so much excitement, right, in this field of technology and software, which is pretty much covering the world. So I'm really excited, what will be coming in my career in the next 20 years. And I think those of you are already in, either middle school or high school, I think the potential is just unlimited, if you just, expose yourself to the various aspects of STEM, software, technology, which field you are in, right? Banking, financial services, insurance, healthcare. There's just plenty of opportunities for you to apply all of this in, helping lives. That's kind of a short story. Back to you, Caitlin.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Mahesh. That was awesome. I really am fascinated with the different names of all the coding things. That is kind of funny that they are named after foods. But it does sound a lot. Yeah, it is very silly. All right, so we do have some really great questions rolling in here. So we're gonna bring all of you guys back to see if we can answer some of these questions for us. So I have, let me just check through here. I'm going to call out some of you specifically, and then I have some questions for all as well. So I'm going to start off here with, let's see, Karen, I would like to ask you what your experience as a woman in STEM is like, and how, do you have any advice for women entering the field of STEM?
Yes, thank you. So as a woman in STEM, it's exciting. We're at an exciting, time right now. As we all know, and it's not a secret, there's no level platform right now, right? There's not, it's not, we're driving toward equity. We have a long way to go. So it's very exciting to me though, that finally, we are beginning to see and enjoy, more of a voice, more of a platform. We are valued by what we can bring. So this is an exciting time for us, and for the young girls, across the world, not just in the USS, especially across the world. That we can become involved and really know that we can achieve whatever we want to achieve. You're limited only by yourself. You're not limited by your gender, your color, your race, nothing, right? So this is great. And within Pfizer, again, we have many efforts toward diversity, inclusion, and especially equity. I share one saying, and this is a borrowed saying, it's not something that I made up, but you think of it as diversity is making sure everybody gets invited to the party, right? Inclusion means everybody should have an opportunity to dance. And I take that one step forward to say equity is in the music. We all dance to a different beat. So as women in STEM careers, we bring our unique talents and so forth. So we are really driving toward opportunities of excellence. So I encourage everyone, stay involved. You can do it. Don't take it for granted. We've heard many of our nice panelists share. The fact is, you don't start out knowing necessarily what exactly you're going to do or what you can do, but don't be discouraged. Just keep moving in the direction that you want. And don't limit yourself to thinking, math is too hard, science is too hard. There's so many ways out there, so many fields that we've learned about. And I've learned some things just being on this panel myself. So that's what I would say. Absolutely. It's an exciting time right now. And let's make our marks. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. That is very wonderfully put. I really like the party idea. That brings it into perspective. Now I have a question. Let's see, for Hassan. Says, what excites you the most about the future of your technology?
So a lot of good things are happening in technology space right now at this time, and it feels like every single time that statement is true. Like if you look back 20 years, but right now I feel specifically that is true. And I think in future, if I look at it right now, the most exciting thing is advancements in artificial intelligence that we have been able to make in technology space, and that is deeply rooted in STEM technologies, including mathematics. Mathematics is really behind this whole new advancements. Statistics, also coding. I kind of talked about that. So I think in next few years, like 10 years, 20 years, I can't really say right now, but advancements in artificial intelligence, things like auto driving cars, and also AI advancement in other areas are going to be super excitement and very and it'll change the way we live our lives in the next 20 years. So I would say yes, that is one biggest thing I see happening and most exciting thing in the next 20 years or so.
Definitely. I would totally be there for the self-driving cars. I've seen some things that they can do with them, and that is absolutely fascinating to me as well.
Sure.
Let's see. I have a question for, let's see, Todd. Because you do work in the healthcare industry right now, we would like to know, how has the pandemic impacted your work right now?
It's a great question. our work actually shifted quite a bit. So our laboratory was momentarily shut down, obviously, from the pandemic. But our laboratory actually has a lot of expertise in 3D printing. We went from a research lab to a a 3D printing lab, and how we could actually help produce items that are needed. So we were actually making face shields. We were actually making mask holders. We were actually making prototyping some testing swabs, all kinds of things. Something that all of us kind of considered more of a hobby kind of became our job for a little while because of the demand for some of those products. I will say it's a challenging time, but it was quite interesting to kind of step away from researching unknown problems to trying to provide something that was really needed for the healthcare workers to do their job.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for all your contribution to the health and what is going on with the world right now. It is a very tough time for all of us.
It is.
All right. Let me find any more questions. Let's see. We have a question for Mahesh. What kind of tech jobs do you think are the most in demand right now? And any kind of suggestions or advice for kids looking into tech areas? Where should they start from?
Sure, it's a very good question, right? There are a lot of tech jobs if you just look at within the software world. I think the first place I would look is anything to do with data, right? If you are good in math, numbers, you can learn any programming language you want because there is so much data around everything, right? So I would call it data science is one area you should definitely look at. The second one, I think Hassan mentioned a minute ago, artificial intelligence and machine learning. Because there is so much data, a machine can learn faster than you and I could because it can compute so much faster. I would say there is so much jobs that are coming up. The third one I would say in a very immediate term would be there is so much around cloud. There is you can in a matter of few minutes you can build your application, put it on cloud, and get everybody to use it. So anything to do with cloud, whether you manage a cloud environment, you build applications, I think that's another big area within the technology space. I would say name those three as the immediate ones. But if you look further out, 10, 15 years from now, there is so much around quantum computing and others which are going to change, even the whole technology sector. So that's kind of how I would put as some immediate areas. And you can pick or choose, right? Whatever programming language named after a fruit or a snake or something, all of those are relevant.
All right, awesome. Thank you guys. I have one last question I'm going to ask you all while we wrap this up. So I'm going to start with Karen and then for this question for all of you, but I'm going to ask you all individually to answer. So I'm going to start with Karen. So this is the main question. So what is one piece of advice you would like to give a student or a person that is interested in STEM, and what kind of advice do you have if they're stuck somewhere and need some help to get moving on to a STEM career?
Great. That's a great question. Thank you so much. Yeah, the one piece of advice is just push forward. And I know that sounds so much easier said than done. I'm going to share with you something long time back when I was doing my studies and I was trying to write, I think it was one of my thesis documents. I felt stuck and I said, I can't get started. I can't get started. And my research advisor looked me square in the eye and said, you can't write the first sentence, then write the second sentence first. And I thought about that, and that's something that I have remembered in my life. If you can't figure out how to start, then start the second test first. Just start somewhere. If you have a passion, then just follow it. Don't feel like you have to have every answer or you have to know exactly the path you're going on. The roads are not straight, you'll just decide. When you go to college, if you can't declare your major precisely, when you enter college, that's okay. The important thing is just to go and get your education and try. And if along the way another door opens to you and you think, wow, this is something I hadn't thought about before. You can change. You don't want to change all the time, right? You don't want to be one semester from graduating with the major in, say, chemistry, and all of a sudden you decide the halfway through your senior year you would rather major in dance. That may not be such a good thing, but the point is you will find things, and as you move along, if you allow your mind to be open and your eyes to be open, you may see opportunities. Talk to people. Talk to people that are in the fields. Take every advantage you can. I think someone shared that they found out by shadowing that that's not where they wanted to go. That's very important. Just like negative results and scientific experiments are very valuable, so finding out what you don't want to do is very, very valuable in finding out what you do want to do. That's what I would share. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very awesome advice. I'm gonna pose the same question. Hassan, next, what is your piece of advice that you would like to leave our group here with today?
Yes, so that is actually a very good question, really, and I think really, if I have to summarize in one sentence, I'll say follow your curiosity. Really follow it. Look around you, and naturally speaking, we humans, and especially you kids, get curious about things. You ask questions like, why is this? Why is that? How is that? How does that happen? Take those questions and try to find an answer. At whatever level you are. If you are at a primary school level, if you're at a middle school level, high school level, or you're going to a university, follow that lead, and then you will go, you will find amazing answers, and you'll get more curious, you'll get more interested in that field, and that's how you will progress. It should never feel like a burden. It should feel like an excitement. It should feel like you are you are doing something that you really love, you really like. So follow your curiosity and with passion, and it will take you to wonderful places. And never think that anything is difficult or hard for you to do. That's one advice I would think of.
That's wonderful. I think I should have that like on a bumper sticker or something painted on my wall. Follow your curiosity. I really like that sentence. That's a great catchphrase.
Sure.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Todd, how about you? Any advice? Especially, I know you mentioned that test taking skills. I admit I didn't have the best test taking skills either. I would get super nervous, and I knew the stuff, but I didn't know the stuff. So, any advice you have for kids going into STEM?
Absolutely. So, and I think Karen actually touched on some of this already. If you're really interested in something, don't give up. I really wanted to make sure that research is where I want it to be. And just reaching out to people and getting no responses is sometimes very discouraging. And so, if you're really interested in making sure, or really interested in exploring something, really, don't be afraid to contact people. We get contacted quite a bit for people who just literally want to come in for an hour and see if this is actually what they think it is. And for me, that was really critically important. I will say that, standardized test taking, I would say, as a relief, has become less of a necessity now in some of these applications, and I'm glad for some of the students for that. But I don't want people to be discouraged that just because you weren't able to complete one aspect of one of your challenges doesn't mean that you can't complete the others. And so I always say to myself, yeah, you didn't end up being a doctor, but the work that you will do hopefully will help patients. And so I didn't necessarily need to be the doctor to affect patient care. So yeah, and I will say that there are lots of summer opportunities around for the universities, for Jackson Labs and others. Just don't feel bad about making lots of connections, trying to connect with people, because there are people out there who definitely want to give students a chance to find what they want to do.
Awesome. That is great. Yeah, definitely reaching out and trying things is definitely one of the best ways to figure out what you want to do in the future. Awesome. And last but not least, we have Mahesh. I know it's going to be hard to follow up three other
Yeah.
advices, but do you have any last things you would like to mention?
Yeah, I mean, they all said it well. I think the only thing I would add is try things, right? There is so much resources online. Now that it's summertime, you have time now, just take a course here or there. It doesn't matter whether it's on data or Python or cloud. There are beginners courses, so you will know what attracts you. So just give it a shot, right? There's nothing wrong. If it doesn't work out, so what? Give that a try. And I gave the same advice to my son who is in high school. So he found, he did some programming courses and he did a few other things. Now he found what he really wants to do. So I would just say, give it a shot, give it a try. There is so many online resources.
All right. Well, thank you. I want to say thank you to all of our presenters here today. We had a great time talking with you, and thank you for answering some of our questions. And everybody watching, we hope you enjoyed the conversations today and learned some new things about possible STEM careers. For more information and events, tune in for the rest of our upcoming Family STEM Week events. We have tomorrow at noon. We will be streaming our Lunch Bunch Facebook Live events on the Connecticut Science Center Facebook page. Tomorrow's Lunch Bunch will be at Ensign in Bigford Aerospace and Defense. So it should be a very interesting event tomorrow, and you are welcome to join us and watch and ask questions during that live event as well. This week, we are also doing some really fascinating STEM activities and moving forward here at the Science Center in our galleries. So we encourage you to come visit us. We are open, so please come on down and visit us and check out what we are showing about STEM careers in our Science Center galleries. Now, this would not be possible, of course, without our amazing sponsors here today. This mini STEM, that's the tongue twister, mini STEM career showcase is presented by Stanley Black & Decker. And our STEM career connections at the Connecticut Science Center is presented by the Hartford Cognizant US Foundation and Launch with founding support from the Mendel Brunstein family. All right, so again, we want to say thank you so much for all of our presenters. We had a great time learning from you guys today. And thank you everybody for joining and watching our presentation. We hope to see you soon at the Connecticut Science Center. Thank you all.